Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Unlimited podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jamie.
So I have to start today with a bit of a confession. And it's one I think a lot of you will probably relate to. I feel, totally fluent in English when I'm by myself.
Right.
I can write these long, complex emails. I can listen to really complicated documentaries. And I feel like, yeah, I'm operating at a high level. But the second I have to open my mouth and speak, especially if it's like an important meeting or even just a quick text message to a client, my brain just performs this ridiculous, agonizing mental block.
It just shuts down.
Completely. It all just shuts down.
That is such a universal experience for language learners. I know exactly what you mean.
Right.
That feeling of going from someone who can comfortably read, a complex article to someone who suddenly has forgotten the word for water.
Yes. Or table. The moment any pressure is applied, it's gone. I think of it as the type, delete, type again phenomenon. It's something the sources we looked at highlight so perfectly. You know the words, but you spend 5, maybe 10 minutes editing a simple message because you're constantly checking grammar and worrying about the tone.
You're just overthinking every single word.
Completely. And sometimes the fear of making a mistake is so paralyzing that you end up staying quiet.
And that's so much effort for really almost no useful output at all.
Exactly.
So that feeling, that whole internal struggle, is exactly the mission for our deep dive today.
Okay.
We're going to pull back the curtain on the real, scientific, psychological reasons why we freeze up when speaking English, a feeling formerly known as foreign language anxiety.
So we're going beyond just saying, oh, don't be nervous.
Way beyond that. We're exploring the actual barriers, both, cognitive and physical, that stop you from speaking confidently at that B1, B2 level.
Okay.
And then we are providing concrete, research-backed techniques to maximize your confidence and finally move past that freeze.
Okay, that sounds incredibly useful.
We have some amazing practical tools for you today. We'll be detailing a really simple, powerful technique called shadowing.
Shadowing. Yeah, okay.
It's research-backed, and it's scientifically proven to improve pronunciation clarity and confidence. And the best part is you can start doing it today with any podcast you listen to.
I love that. And for all you B1, B2 listeners who are ready to sound more polished and, professional, we are going to teach you 4 powerful target words and phrases today.
What are they?
Overthinking, insecure, concise, and the technique itself, shadowing.
Plus, you should definitely stick around until the very end because I am going to test your understanding of those 4 words in our quick pop quiz.
Ah, okay. The pressure's on.
It's a great way to make sure these essential concepts really stick in your long-term memory.
It is going to be an incredibly useful deep dive, really moving from that silent knowledge to confident communication. But first, since you're here with us, learning and growing, please just take one quick moment to subscribe to English Unlimited podcast and like this deep dive.
It genuinely helps more learners find their way to confidence, and we really do appreciate that support so much.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this mental block and figure out why we freeze.
Let's get into it.
All right, so let's start with the hard truth. Why do we freeze up when we speak a new language?
Well, what you described earlier, that whole experience, is formally called foreign language anxiety, or FLA for short.
FLA, okay.
It can sometimes be referred to by a more technical term, xenoglossophobia.
Whoa, that sounds serious. Xenoglossophobia.
It literally means fear of foreign languages.
Okay, but how is this different from just, being generally shy or an introvert?
That is such a crucial distinction. The sources we read really emphasize that FLA is situational anxiety.
Situational? What do you mean?
It's not just general shyness. It's a specific psychological reaction, a feeling of unease, worry, nervousness that happens specifically when you're learning or using a foreign language.
Oh, I see. So you might be totally calm and confident in every other part of your life.
Exactly.
Like maybe you're a great public speaker in your native language or a bold business owner.
Right.
But the moment you have to speak English, boom, the fear just hit.
Precisely. It's totally isolated to the language context.
So you can be confident in life, but insecure in the language.
You've got it. And researchers have broken down the root causes of this anxiety into 3 core components.
Okay.
And we really need to look at these closely because, understanding the cause is the first step to overcoming it.
So what's the first one?
The first cause is communication apprehension.
Communication apprehension. What does that actually mean for a B1 learner?
It's the general anxiety you feel specifically when you have to speak or listen to others in English.
So, like, the fear of even starting the conversation.
Exactly. Or maybe that overwhelming dread when you have to participate in a group discussion, even if you planned what you wanted to say.
Oh, yeah.
It's the fear of the interaction itself, regardless of the topic.
So it's the anxiety that hits before you even try to form a sentence. Just the thought of participating is enough to trigger it.
Totally. It's anticipatory stress.
Okay. What's the second cause?
The second one is test anxiety.
That one's easy to relate to. The pressure of a formal assessment.
Right. And it's a specific kind of performance anxiety tied to the fear of failure. So it could be a formal exam, sure, but it could also be a job interview or even just a presentation to colleagues where you know your English skills are being kind of informally judged.
Yeah, the stakes feel really high.
Exactly. And the fear of getting a low score or being judged for a grammar error, it just leads to panic.
And I can see how that bleeds directly into the third cause, which the sources suggest is maybe the most powerful trigger.
Which is?
The fear of negative evaluation.
That is the big one. It's the anxiety that's all about how you think others might negatively view your language ability.
So your classmates, your boss.
Your instructor, even strangers listening nearby. It's that internal voice whispering, they think your English is bad, or they're judging your accent.
That must be so profoundly linked to your identity, right?
It is.
If you feel like your language performance is being judged, it feels like you are being judged.
That's the huge psychological cost. Language learning, especially speaking, is described in the sources as a profoundly unsettling psychological proposition
Wow.
because it jeopardizes your entire self-understanding and perspective.
Yeah.
The internal conflict is just intense.
So you're facing what? Performance difficulty, a threat to your social image?
And potential identity conflict, all at the same time.
Wait, hold on. Can you expand on that, the identity conflict part?
Of course. When you're trying to communicate in a new language, you might try to act or speak in a way that aligns with that foreign culture.
Okay, like using certain idioms or something.
Or even just being more direct. Maybe English speakers are very direct in meetings, but your native culture values indirectness.
Ah, I see.
So this new direct behavior clashes with your deeply ingrained native values.
It feels like you're not being yourself.
Exactly. You feel like you're losing a piece of yourself or that you're performing some inauthentic version of yourself, and that just skyrockets the anxiety.
Wow. So every single time we open our mouths, it's not just a grammatical challenge.
Not at all.
It's a high-stakes identity negotiation. That explains why the fear feels so much bigger than just missing a verb tense.
It really does. And now let's talk about what happens physically when that fear hits.
Okay.
Because we can actually map this stress in the brain. The neurobiological data is genuinely fascinating, and it explains that mental block.
Please explain that. Why does my brain physically stop working when I need a word the most?
Okay, so foreign language anxiety triggers what's known as the HPA axis.
The HPA axis.
The hyperthalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It's your body's central stress response system. And activating the HPA axis leads to the release of the primary stress hormone, cortisol.
So that physical panic, the racing heart, the sweaty palms, that's literally our body going into stress mode. It's not just our mind being silly.
Absolutely. Studies of bilingual speakers show way higher cortisol levels when speaking their second language compared to their native one.
Wow.
It's a genuine biological reaction to what your brain perceives as a threat.
So what does all that cortisol do to the parts of our brain that we need for language?
This is the critical link to the mental block. High cortisol levels are known to impede the functioning of the hippocampus.
The hippocampus. Remind us what that does again?
The hippocampus is that seahorse-shaped part deep in your brain that's vital for long-term memory retrieval and formation.
Okay.
When cortisol floods your system, it essentially puts the hippocampus on lockdown. Your brain's resources are diverted away from complex tasks like language production.
And reallocated to what?
To a basic fight-or-flight response.
Oh my gosh. That explains it perfectly. I know the word for ambiguous, but my brain literally cannot access the memory because the fear of being judged has triggered my HPA axis and my memory center is impaired.
Precisely. That is what researchers call vocabulary retrieval failure.
Wow.
And this anxiety messes with all stages of learning. In the input stage, when you're listening, anxiety distracts you. In the processing stage, it uses up your working memory, worrying about grammar.
And finally, in the output stage.
It blocks information retrieval, causing that freezing or stuttering we all know.
Okay, Understanding the neurobiology makes that emotional barrier feel so much more valid.
It is.
Let's dig into the vocabulary around these feelings now. Can we shine a spotlight on the word insecure?
Good idea.
This feeling seems to sit right at the core of that fear of negative evaluation, doesn't it?
Insecure is the perfect word. It describes that deep emotional barrier we feel when our self-image is threatened.
So in plain English,
In plain English, to feel insecure just means feeling unsure about your own worth, value, or abilities.
and how does that apply specifically to language learning? Because, I mean, our worth as a human is separate from our English ability, right?
It is, but it feels psychologically connected. In language context, insecure means your sense of self-efficacy is low, even if your grammar skills are actually pretty good,
So it's the gap between what you know.
and what you believe you can do. The anxiety just makes you feel vulnerable.
I love that distinction. The gap between knowing and believing. How would we see this word used in different contexts? Can you give us 3 different examples?
Let's run through them. First, a formal one.
Okay.
The research indicated that students often felt insecure about their grammar accuracy, which reduced their willingness to communicate.
I see. So that links the emotion to the academic output.
Exactly. Now, for a casual one, I always feel a little insecure when I have to ask a question in front of native speakers.
Yep, that captures that everyday social anxiety perfectly.
And for a funny or weird one, my dog looks perfectly confident in his sweater, but he's secretly insecure about his tail wags.
Okay, that's a good one. It still gets the core meaning of self-doubt across.
Totally.
I think the key here is realizing that insecurity is internal. It's a feeling of inadequacy that's often not based on objective reality.
Exactly.
Let's try a quick skit to show this in a practice context.
Huh.
Let's say we're in a language exchange, and one of us is struggling with that feeling.
Sounds good. I'll start out as a slightly challenging question to prompt that feeling.
Go for it.
So, based on the article we read, what do you think is the biggest long-term institutional cause of foreign language anxiety?
Hesitantly.
Mhm.
Well, I'm feeling a little insecure about answering perfectly. I know the points, but I keep checking the grammar in my head, and I'm scared to start.
Totally understandable. That's just the anxiety talking, not your ability. Just try to use your clearest words. We're just practicing.
Okay. I believe the biggest cause is the fear of negative evaluation from, like, a high-stakes testing culture.
See, perfectly clear. You overcame that momentary feeling of insecurity and made a strong point.
Yeah, okay.
And learners should note the common pairings or collocations for this word. You'll hear feel insecure about, or the academic term linguistic insecurity.
Right.
Understanding the word helps you label the feeling, which gives you power over it.
That's fantastic. Now let's move from the emotional barrier to the cognitive one.
Okay.
That feeling where our head is full of perfect sentences, but our mouth is on mute. It's that noisy room in the head problem where we overthink until the moment passes.
Overthinking is the cognitive cousin of insecurity. It means thinking too much about something so that it actually becomes a problem. It leads directly to silence.
So this ties back to that output stage failure, right?
Absolutely.
Where the cortisol-impaired hippocampus can't get the word because our brain is too busy triple-checking the rule.
You got it. The sources explain this happens most acutely at the output stage. The brain is just too busy worrying about perfect grammar to actually speak.
That is such a huge problem for us B1, B2 learners. We know enough grammar to realize we might be wrong.
But you don't know it instinctively enough to trust yourselves.
Exactly.
The analogy one source used is brilliant. It's like waiting for the perfect bus. You say, no, not this one, the grammar's shaky. Not this one, the vocabulary's too common.
And while you're standing there analyzing,
All the buses go by, and you're still standing silently at the bus stop. The conversation is completely moved on.
that analogy is brutally relatable. Okay, give us the 3 examples for overthinking.
Here are 3 ways to use it. First, the formal one.
Lay it on me.
Researchers posited that the output stage is where overthinking can block the efficient retrieval of information from long-term memory.
Okay, that grounds it in the cognitive science.
Right. Now for a casual one, I spent almost 10 minutes overthinking whether to send a simple thank you email.
Been there, done that. So frustrating.
And a funny one. I overthought my breakfast order so much that the cafe started serving lunch before I even decided.
That highlights how focusing on tiny details just paralyzes you. Let's demonstrate that. That moment where you prepare a sentence 10 times in your head while the conversation moves on, it happens all the time in meetings.
I can play the person talking, and you try to jump in, but you get blocked by your own inner monologue.
Perfect. Let's say we're discussing a project deadline.
Okay, so I was telling the team about the scope change, and honestly, the client's feedback was completely vague. They said they wanted more synergy, but gave zero practical suggestions.
Whispering as an inner voice. Okay, I want to say their feedback was unclear. No, wait, is unclear professional enough? Maybe ambiguous? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say their request lacked clarity. But wait, did they say Friday or Thursday, I should ask?
And I'm leaning towards sending them a concise summary and asking for 3 bullet points of actionable steps. Did I miss anything? What are your thoughts?
Snapping out of it. Oh. Um, yes, I completely agree with sending the concise summary.
See, that's overthinking in action. The point was ready, but the internal debate blocked the immediate output. The opportunity was lost.
So,
Common collocations for this are stop overthinking, overthinking the problem, and overthinking every word. The key is just to accept that fluency requires speaking, and sometimes good enough is truly perfect.
okay, so we've established the enemy. Anxiety makes us feel insecure, which causes us to overthink, which leads to silence.
That's the cycle.
So let's transition to concrete strategies. To combat this paralysis, what do we do?
We need simple, strong, repeatable strategies. And it starts with addressing a foundational mistake. Wordiness.
Oh, I have definitely been guilty of that.
Many learners think using big, complex sentences makes them sound smarter.
Yeah, you're trying to prove you're fluent by using every new word you learned that week.
But the research on professional communication suggests the opposite is true. Being direct and clear, being concise, sounds far more confident and professional.
That is a massive perspective shift. The mental energy you save by focusing on clarity over complexity must also reduce anxiety.
Exactly. There's less risk of messing up a simple, direct statement.
So where do we start?
It starts with small, actionable tweaks, like focusing on proper greetings in professional settings.
Right. So instead of a super casual, hey, what's up? Go for good morning or good afternoon.
Yeah.
It just sets a more professional tone.
And that extends to using titles, right? Using
Yeah.
Mr. Smith or Mrs. Chen, unless they tell you otherwise.
Exactly. It reduces the risk of making a social mistake, which is another source of anxiety.
Okay, what's next?
Now, let's tackle the biggest enemy of sounding confident: speech clutter. This comes in two forms: filler words and disclaimers.
Let's start with filler words. I know I use them when I'm trying to buy time to remember a word.
We all do. Words like, bin krine.
Yeah.
They're notorious for weakening your message. They just signal hesitation and insecurity.
And the worst part is we often don't even realize how much we're using them.
Right. So here's the quick, powerful tip. This is a game changer.
Okay.
Don't replace the filler word with another word. Replace it with silence.
A short, thoughtful pause instead of an makes you sound deliberate, measured, and in control. Silence radiates confidence. Sound clutter signals uncertainty.
Wow. That's a huge psychological shift, reframing silence as confidence, not a weakness.
It is. And we also need to watch out for side particles. Words like basically, technically, or literally. They often add no real value.
Can you give us a comparison?
Sure. Instead of saying, basically, we need to finish the report by Friday, technically speaking, just say, we must finish the report by Friday. Simple, clear, professional. Less is more.
That effort to simplify our language leads us directly to the perfect word to describe this style. We are moving away from phrases like, in the event that it rains.
Then switching to,
If it rains.
that shift perfectly embodies our third target word. It's concise.
Concise.
It's the ultimate antidote to wordiness and verbal clutter. To be concise means to be short, clear, and to express everything you need without unnecessary words.
I love the idea of verbal efficiency. It shifts the goal from sounding complicated to sounding competent. Can you give us those 3 signature examples for concise?
Absolutely. First, a formal one. The presentation was effective because the data was delivered in a concise manner.
Okay. Emphasizes professionalism.
Next, a casual one. Just give me the answer. Try to be concise. I don't need the whole story.
A direct, everyday request. I like it.
And a funny one. My neighbor's story about his cat was not concise. It took 3 hours.
That definitely critiques excessive, irrelevant detail. Let's try a quick skit.
Yeah.
You've given me a long, winding explanation, and I need you to be more concise.
Got it. Here's my wordy explanation. Due to the fact that we encountered unforeseen delays in the process of transferring the relevant documentation, and also considering the temporary absence of key stakeholders, we had determined that for the purpose of moving forward efficiently, rescheduling the meeting is the only viable option at this moment in time.
Sighs. Wow, that was a lot. Could you please just be more concise? What's the core action?
Smiling. Fine. The data transfer was delayed, and the stakeholders are absent, so we must reschedule the meeting.
Much better. We saved so many unnecessary words, and the meaning became instantly clearer.
And that's the point. For collocations, remember phrases like concise summary, incise answer, or just be concise.
Okay, that leads perfectly into the final section on verbal polish. Moving beyond just word choice to strategic phrasing.
Yes, this is where we learn to sound assertive.
The source material had some fantastic, actionable examples of how changing a single phrase can instantly shift you from sounding insecure to sounding confident.
This is the moment we stop apologizing for having an opinion. Assertive language is about presenting your knowledge with certainty.
Okay, let's go through those weak versus strong comparisons slowly. They're so useful, starting with suggestions.
When you offer an idea, don't hedge. So instead of tentatively saying, I think this is a good idea,
You should say,
switch to the assertive strong phrasing, I believe this is a great idea. The shift from think to believe shows certainty.
that small shift from think to believe carries so much weight. What about when describing past actions?
Instead of passively saying, I was given an opportunity.
You should say, I seized the opportunity.
Exactly. It makes it clear you're a person of action who takes initiative.
I love that. Seized the opportunity. It implies control, which is the opposite of that anxiety-driven feeling.
And a huge one for me, something that absolutely screams self-doubt, is that question at the end of an explanation.
Ah, the classic. Does that make sense? We've all done it.
That phrase suggests you aren't sure if you explained it correctly. Instead, try the confident pivot. Let me know if you have any questions.
Oh, that's so much better. It keeps the door open for dialogue but maintains your authority.
It's a powerful micro tweak.
We should also touch on giving feedback. That can feel really intimidating if you're insecure about your English.
For sure. You definitely want to avoid harsh generalizations like, your work isn't good.
Right. That's not helpful or concise.
Instead, use collaborative phrasing. Say something like, I think this could be improved by focusing on X. Or even better, start with a positive.
So, I really like the introduction. One way we can make the conclusion even stronger is by adding more data here.
Exactly. It turns a potential conflict into a partnership.
And finally, what about ending a conversation?
Don't neglect your exit strategy. Avoid the abrupt, okay, bye.
Instead,
Close professionally. Give a gracious thank you. Thank you for your time and valuable insights. Or clarify next steps. I'll send you an update by Friday.
all these small, deliberate choices stack up. They reduce anxiety because you know you're presenting your most competent self.
It directly combats that fear of negative evaluation.
Okay, we've covered the mental blocks, insecurity and overthinking, and the assertive communication tweaks, like being concise.
Right.
But how do we physically practice clarity and pronunciation to boost our confidence? This brings us to the technique you teased earlier, shadowing.
Absolutely. One of the best practical confidence boosters is knowing your pronunciation is clear. And shadowing is a core strategy for that.
So let's treat shadowing as our final target word. What exactly is this technique? Why is it so powerful?
Okay, so shadowing is a technique where you listen to some audio, a podcast, a movie line, and you immediately repeat the words aloud. The critical part is you're mimicking the speaker's tone, rhythm, and pronunciation as closely as possible, right on their heels.
So you're not waiting for them to finish the sentence. You're trying to say it almost at the same time.
Exactly. You are their verbal shadow.
That sounds really difficult.
It is intense, and that's why it's so effective. It was originally developed to train simultaneous interpreters.
Wow.
But it's great for English learners because it forces your brain to shift focus instead of cognitively analyzing grammar.
You're just focusing on the sound.
Yes, on the acoustic and physical features of the language, the sounds, the stress, the rhythm, all at once.
So it bypasses the overthinking part of the brain and forces us into pure production mode.
You got it. It becomes a technical workout for your mouth and your ear, not a grammar test for your mind.
Okay, let's hear the 3 examples for shadowing.
The formal one first. Researchers conducted an action research project using the shadowing technique to enhance pronunciation and fluency.
So it's a valid, research-backed method.
Right, now casual. When I was learning German, I used shadowing a lot with my favorite movie scenes.
Okay, showing its practical, everyday use.
And the funny one, I spent 10 minutes shadowing the overly dramatic weather report in my kitchen, trying to match the anchor's dramatic pause before he said catastrophic.
I love that. It shows the focus on expressive features like tone and emotion. I think we need to try it.
Okay.
I'll read a moderately fast line with natural rhythm, and you try to follow me immediately, like my shadow.
I am ready. Throw me a challenging rhythm.
Clearly, at a conversational pace, if the board decides to move forward with the plan, the deadline for completion will be fast approaching, likely by next Tuesday.
Immediately repeating, if the board decides to move forward with the plan, the deadline for completion will be fast approaching, likely by next Tuesday.
Even in that short bit, I could hear how it forces you to prioritize sound over internal analysis. You can't stop to think about the grammar.
It does. You have to just say the sound you heard. This constant, high-speed repetition is what builds automaticity and reduces anxiety.
And for collocations, we hear things like practice shadowing, shadowing technique.
And using shadowing with mobile technology, since anyone can do this with a smartphone.
Now let's solidify this with data. This isn't just a nice trick, right?
Not at all. It's scientifically effective. We have data from a research project at Nguyen University involving 27 freshmen over a 6-week intensive period.
6 weeks is a pretty short time to see significant growth.
It is. The students engaged almost entirely in focused shadowing practice, and the results were conclusive.
What were they?
The average proficiency score increased significantly, rising from a baseline of 3.9 to a post-test score of 4.8.
Wow, an average increase of 0.9 points on their proficiency scale in just 6 weeks. That's huge.
It's substantial evidence that the technique positively impacted all the students.
And where did they improve the most?
The most significant gains were in word stress and sentence stress,
Why is stress so important for a B1, B2 learner's confidence?
because stress is the music of English. If you place the stress on the wrong syllable, even if your individual sounds are perfect, the word can be totally unintelligible.
Ah, I see. So mastering stress and rhythm reduces the listener's effort.
Exactly. The students' scores for stress and rhythm saw an increase of a massive 1.3 points. This is the key to sounding fluent.
And that must directly reduce that fear of negative evaluation. If people understand you easily, your anxiety goes down.
Precisely. We also saw strong improvement in overall comprehensibility.
And what did the students themselves think about the practice?
The perception was overwhelmingly positive. 100% of the students agreed that shadowing improved their pronunciation of individual sounds and word strength.
100%. That's incredible.
And 78% believe they improved their intonation awareness. This aligns with other studies that found shadowing increases self-confidence and motivation.
So the confidence comes from the objective proof that they sound clearer.
Exactly. The method works because you're forced to focus on acoustic signals rather than on cognitive processing, which is often overwhelmed by anxiety and overthinking.
This is where we bring it all together. Since podcasts are the perfect tool for shadowing, what are the key tips for making our listening time count?
Tip 1, and this is crucial, find your Goldilocks podcast.
Not too hard, not too easy, but just right.
Exactly. Aim for a podcast where you understand about 80% of what's being said. That keeps you engaged without triggering that input anxiety.
A manageable goal. What if the speaker is too fast?
Tip 2, maximize the playback speed function. Slow it down to 0.75x speed. All good podcast apps let you do this.
That's vital for shadowing prep. It gives you time to process. What's tip 3?
Listen actively and take notes. It's tempting to multitask, but if you want the learning to stick, you have to resist.
Right, that's the input stage principle. We need full focus, and we have to activate new words, right?
Absolutely. You need to write down new words and, crucially, activate them.
Mm-hmm.
Use them in your own meaningful sentences and say those sentences out loud.
And finally, a great way to combine listening with output practice is paraphrasing practice.
Yes, this is a fantastic fluency builder. Listen to a short segment, about 3 minutes, then stop the podcast and recap what you heard in your own words.
And the key is to say it out loud, not just think it.
That's right. It strengthens fluency and forces you to use your own grammar. It's the perfect bridge between listening clarity and speaking confidence.
Okay, let's address a common phrasing mistake I hear from intermediate learners.
Bring it on. These are so valuable.
When learners are trying to express that they're dedicated to self-study, I often hear something like, I'm doing my language learning by my own self, so I don't need to live in an English country.
That sentence is perfectly clear, but the phrasing, by my own self and English country, makes it sound unnatural and wordy.
A classic example of not being concise.
Right. And overthinking the construction.
So how would a native speaker say it?
The native natural way would be the simple verb phrase, I'm teaching myself English so I don't need to live abroad. That's concise and strong.
Much smoother. And what if I want to sound really professional, like on a resume?
If you want to sound particularly professional, you could say, I am learning English autonomously.
Autonomously, that is a powerful word. It's both concise and impressive.
And we need to reiterate the core message. You absolutely do not need to live in an English-speaking country to become fluent, but you do need consistency.
Let's do a second common mistake that violates that concise rule.
Okay.
How about when a learner is trying to agree but feels they need to use complex hedging? For instance, in my personal opinion, I am in agreement with your aforementioned statement.
That's another great example of wordiness, probably driven by that fear of sounding uneducated. Native speakers would find that phrasing really stiff.
So how do we make that concise and confident?
You just need to be assertive and direct. You could simply say, I agree with your statement, or if you want to sound more energized, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, the word aforementioned is almost never necessary in spoken English.
Not at all. Plain, concise agreement shows confidence and respect for the listener's time.
All right, and most importantly, listeners, it's time for
The pop quiz. We went deep into 4 crucial concepts today, and now we're going to test how well they stuck.
I'm ready. Hit me with it.
Question 1. What specific emotional barrier describes the feeling of being unsure about your abilities, which often stems from the fear of negative evaluation?
That is the feeling of being insecure. It's that gap between what you know and what you believe you can do.
Excellent distinction. Question 2. If you spend 10 minutes checking the grammar of a simple text message and miss the chance to participate in the conversation, what cognitive barrier are you committing?
That is overthinking, the constant internal analysis that paralyzes your speech. Spot on. Question 3. What single word describes communicating only what is necessary, clearly, and without unnecessary detail?
That would be concise. We must aim for concise, professional communication.
Exactly. And finally, question 4. What technique involves listening to audio and immediately repeating the words aloud, mimicking the speaker's tone and rhythm?
That is shadowing, the act of practice that builds automatic fluency.
Fantastic work. You nailed all 4 key concepts.
Okay, let's wrap this up with the 3 most important actionable takeaways from today's deep dive.
First, the goal is to stop overthinking. Recognize that internal noise is often the biggest barrier, not your lack of vocabulary.
Second, practice speaking concisely and assertively to immediately sound more confident and professional, and replace filler words with pauses.
And third, use shadowing regularly, even just 5 minutes a day, to improve your pronunciation clarity, master English rhythm, and reduce that deep-seated insecurity.
And we have a micro challenge for you right now. We challenge you to use the word concise in a comment below to describe this deep dive. Or commit to trying the shadowing technique for 5 minutes today with any podcast segment you find interesting.
And if you found this conversation helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe to English Unlimited podcast.
We truly appreciate your support.
I'm Charlie. See you next time.
And I'm Jamie. Bye.